driving specialist for Providence Little Company Mary Hospital in San Pedro. And she is going to talk to you about really getting you back to driving. I know when my mother had her first stroke, they took her license away. And again, you'd have to learn to drive or get it back. This is the people that help you do that. The other guest speaker is Tressa Thompson. She is from the Department of Motor Vehicles, and together they're going to speak on how to navigate both these systems to get your license back or to help you with the DMV and with driving again. I'll tell you, when you can't drive, you really are stranded. So, however, in the city of Torrance, we have a really good cab program, and so there are alternatives. But in the meantime, I'm going to have Purnima come up and speak, and as well as Tressa. So let's give them a big hand. Yes, so I guess you just okay, thank you.
I can speak loud. Can everybody hear me?
No.
No? Okay. All right. I'll use this. But at any point you have a question or you are, my message was not clear, please stop and ask that. Don't worry about it.
Hold your microphone like that.
Okay, that's better?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, Jackie just explained, I'm Purnima, I'm an occupational therapist and I do driving assessments for all medical conditions. That means, if somebody has any medical condition and they need to either get back to it or they need to stay on their driving abilities. So that's what my role is, to help you to support your driving independence. It's again, many times, again, I know Tressa is my friend, but I joke about it. When I see clients, I tell them, I'm not from the DMV, I'm your friend. So, okay, why do we need to talk about driving? We all know that, right? If you don't drive, there's a social isolation. You get depressed, you cannot get around the way you want to get around. It impacts quality of life. And it is such it's like a self-esteem is impacted with that. People really feel down because they cannot drive anymore. So that's why there's a huge need, I cannot even emphasize, that we need to continue to talk about. We talk about retirement all the time. We also need to talk about our driving retirement at some point of time, and not when it comes like a last minute thing. So something to think about. Did you all know that California does not have an age limit? If anybody is 94, also can get, and Tressa was saying 99, right? Somebody?
The oldest driver I met was 106.
Wow. 106 years old. So it's not the age that is that causes you to stop, but it is your functional abilities. And what functional abilities do we need? So we are going to talk about that. So, these are some medical conditions. I'm going to skip a couple of them. Let's get to this point. So, what are the functional abilities that we need to be continuing driving or keep safe driving? It's just not continuing driving, but safe driving. First of all is the vision. Vision has a huge role. We all know. 80 to 90% of our driving depends on how we see clearly, how we process information. Again, it's just not the acuity part, that how clearly we see things, but how we perceive other things that are around us, how close we get, or we stop that the car is stopped in front of. So that's the depth perception, or if there's any problem with the eyes. And I'm going to show you a couple of slides that will tell you what a normal vision looks like and what, with the medical, any condition in the eye that can impact our driving performance. The other is the motor function. How well you move physically, can you move your neck, how your range of motion is, how your strength is in your arm, can you, hang on to them. With some of you, maybe, because of the pulmonary condition, your breathing is affected, that impacts your strength and your endurance. So, if you have to go long distance driving, how does it get affected? And the third one is the cognition. In simple terms, can anybody say what is cognition? Does anybody understand? I'm sorry? Understanding, yeah, very good. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here. Everybody's right. So let's speak up. Yeah, it's basically your thinking skills. You know, how you think, how you remember, how you perceive, how you problem solve. How all those things go under that factor of cognition. You know, many times people say that, you know, why do I have to do all these tests with you, your cognitive skills and all? And I say, well, you're all sitting here right in front of me. Do I know what you're thinking? No, right? I cannot see your thinking skills. Only your product, the end product is what your performance. So when I do the on-road assessment, I see your performance. I'm sorry? Oh, sorry. Okay, so it is your performance or how you perform on the road that tells us, you know, how you drive, how you're reacting to the situations in normal environment. So when we talk about the vision, you know, a lot of times you get tested for this, right? You see how clearly you see. But think about, you know, if there are, you know, sometimes people have 20/30 vision or 20/20 vision, but their perception, you know, I had a lady who had an occipital lobe tumor. That means, you know, there was a brain tumor in the vision lobe. And in that lobe, there was a surgery done and everything. Now, this is not a made-up story. It is a reality. This lady lives right on my street. My car was parked outside, and she drives and she hits my car. So you know, her windshield broke, and all the blood and the glass pieces were on her face. I was not at home, but my son was at home. So she, you know, because she lives right on the street, she made her turn and she stopped, and then she walked inside, and she told my son that, you know what, I hit your car, and you know, I'm sorry about this. So my son said, that's okay. You know, she had blood all over her face and glass pieces sticking on her face. So he said that let us call the ambulance, and she's saying, no, let my husband come. I live right here. So her husband came, but my son decided to call the ambulance no matter what. But the husband was there like in a minute. And the husband, you know, as she started telling my son that, you know, I had a brain tumor, and this is the third accident I've had. I had a fender bender, and I don't know what is happening. I see everything okay, but I guess I don't see okay. Then she started telling him, and the husband is saying, don't tell him, don't tell. And my son says, you know, this is what exactly my mom does. She tests people like you for all these brain conditions. Of course, that finally she did come back to me. We did her driving assessment, and we found out that, you know, what she was seeing, that if the car was parked here, she was seeing the car was parked way out there. So that is what the spatial thing was. So things were messed up with the way she was seeing things. She went through vision therapy, she went through the driving program, and then she was cleared. So that is, I mean, we don't, and think about it. She hit my car, but I live on the street where there is a school. There could have been children, you know, somebody must have been killed if, you know, this was not addressed. So, you know, sometimes things happen for a reason, and I always tell people that, you know, it's good if things happen where you are protected. So this is why we are here. So, you know, just to add a little bit, I'm talking a little bit about the low vision. That means, you know, sometimes there's no surgery or no glasses can fix that vision part. And that, you know, falls in when somebody has a field cut or somebody has a big black spot in the middle of the eye, and, you know, they cannot see things the way they used to, and it affects their daily activities. So that is also a program that we have at the hospital, so just for your knowledge, and how even this can impact the vision. You know, sometimes somebody has a glaucoma and it affects their peripheral vision. Somebody has a macular degeneration, their central vision gets affected. So, you know, just knowing what it is, and then, you know, there are some solutions we can work on it. So this is what the normal vision looks like. And this is a diabetic. Somebody who has diabetes, they have like a Swiss cheese kind of vision. That means, you know, there are patches of vision that, you know, there are plenty of blind spots, but it can affect the way you see things. And this is with the cataract, as simple as that. The lens becomes yellowish. Sometimes you see things, everything yellow, and it's a very, very faded vision, right? It's like an opaque clarity. So that is what it is. And this is with the glaucoma. If somebody has glaucoma, they have like a central vision, but of course in the advanced stage, even the center part gets affected. But basically the side vision is affected with that. And think about it, when you do not have a side vision, what can happen? People can be coming from anywhere, and also the cars coming from anywhere. And that blind spot is so critical here. And this is with the macular degeneration. So you can see this is the normal vision, and that's the one with the macular degeneration. There's a big patch in the middle of the central vision. And the cognition. Yes.
That last photograph you had, it
Yes.
shows it in the center. As you move your eyes, does that go with it?
Yes, but one thing we have to understand that it goes along with it, but people develop, it's called as a eccentric viewing. That means, our brains are so smart. Think about it, that when you have a black spot in the center of the eye, the other part of your eye takes over the look, seeing through that. So what happens is it's called as eccentric viewing. That means, other part of the retina is doing the function of that central part that has been affected. It develops with training, it develops automatically, but effective training is required, so we do offer that, but people who have had, but depends on the size of that black spot. It can be small, then yes, then it's not going to affect too much of, except for your reading ability, but then if it is big enough that, you're missing a whole big, somebody can miss a whole truck in front of them. That's how it can be affected. Did I answer that question?
Yes.
Thank you. Talking about the vision, so that when that changes in those vision happen, DMV needs to be notified. And here we have, we have a senior ombudsman program in state in place, and Tressa is one of our representatives in this area. And she's wonderful to work with, and her goal is not to take away the license, or DMV is not there to take away the license. So I'm joking, they are there. Of course, a lot of times our patients come and they say, "No, you're going to take away my license," and I said, "No, that is not what our role is. Our role is to help you, to keep you on the road as long as you can. But if there are changes in the vision, DMV needs to know that. Because that is how you're protected. DMV is there to support you as long as you can do it safely." So, please ask questions to her, all those questions that, if you have experience though. Now, let's talk about cognition. Cognition, again, as I said, thinking skills. Anything that goes along with, how you perceive, how you remember. Memory is a big component. How you pay attention is a big one. How you think clearly, how you imagine. Problem solving, your judgment, your flexibility in your thought process, that all goes under the umbrella of cognition or your thinking skills. I already talked about it. When we talk about problem solving, think about there's a construction zone or there's a lane closure, how you are going to navigate around. In a lot of medical conditions that I see sometimes, that if they miss a route or if they miss a street, for them to come around and figure that out becomes a challenge. And that causes a huge issue with their driving performance. Because they may do 100% well up to that point, and then suddenly they missed a street and everything starts falling apart. So need to be aware of that. Then we talked about the motor functions, your ability to move your neck, head, can you check the blind spot? Do you have enough range of motion to check the blind spot? Can you look back? I know, a lot of times we joke with our patients that, DMV has not kept up with the technology. And a lot of my patients say, I don't need to look back because I have a camera there. We say, no, DMV is not going to accept that. You need to be able to look back, Of course, unless there's a medical condition and it is documented by a doctor that you cannot look back, then you need some special mirrors for that. But otherwise, you need to be able to demonstrate that you have the ability to check right behind the rear view, the rear windshield. So that is what we need to do. Sorry, going back to any adaptive equipment, if you're using a walker, can you load and unload your walker? Let's say if you're using your oxygen equipment, can you do that? Can you manage it well enough to be able to put it in the car safely and drive safely? A lot of other factors that affect the safe driving are the medications. It's a huge issue that we are not addressing that as much as we should be. The doctors are not educating enough, or the pharmacists are not educating enough to be able to talk that to their patients so that how it is affecting their medications. A lot of these medications, combination of medications, they are causing they have sedative effect. You get drowsy, you get lousy with your endurance, and everything it gets affected, and it affects your processing, how you slow reaction time, and that eventually affects your driving performance. And Betsy was very kind enough to add some of these slides especially for your group. What are the challenges that as a pulmonary group you have here? The fear of leaving the house, she mentioned that, the anxiety that comes along with it, the shortness of breath, and then, there's a lot of unknowns when you go to a parking lot. Let's say if you're going to the grocery store, you do not know how far you should have how far you'll have to park the car, and how will you manage everything that you need to take with you when you're going to even a doctor's office. Doesn't matter what it is. So some of these challenges that you experience, and you will be able to share more with us as we move along. She also helped me to put these solutions for you. So do you all agree with what she has written down? That be prepared. Plan your route enough that and a lot of times I've seen a lot of seniors. What they do is they go at a time where it is less crowded or less traffic, and they self-restrict their night driving. They don't do things that are challenging for them. So that's a great, you're self-restricting yourself. That means you are very much aware of your limitations, and that helps too. Yeah, you do not have to race. That's one of the things that you need to know all your techniques. Yes.
Going back to the previous slide on the handicap parking.
Yes.
Why are there not so much doctor's offices, but like in grocery stores?
Yes.
There's limited amounts, and it's always at the opposite end of where the door is.
Yes.
Right. Why do they do that?
I wish I had that answer. I wish. I know, but they are required, aren't they required, Tressa, that they have that?
That's more of a Department of Transportation or city issue. DMV doesn't get involved in that as far as the, regulations on how far the parking is, because we're just the licensing agency. So if you notice that in your area, I would call ADA and find out how is that supposed to work. Yeah, the American Disabilities Act or Association. You want to call them and find out, is there a regulation on the distance, and why is it that it's at the opposite end, and bring that to their attention, and then they can give you the information on how it's supposed to be set up as a parking lot. Because I'm sure there are requirements and laws for that, but DMV, we wouldn't have that information.
Thank you. Your oxygen needs, be prepared for that. If you have it, use it. Because not having enough oxygen can change your thinking skills. Think about it, and make sure that you take your oxygen. She has put it down very clearly that you have enough oxygen. If you do not have enough oxygen, your brain is not going to function. So you need to have that in place. And then, don't do the guesswork. If you need to check it out. So what do we offer as a driving program? If somebody comes to me, what do we offer? We do a clinical test, and then we do the on-road part. And let's say someone wants to do a driving assessment. what do we need to do? First of all, we have a medically driven driving program, it's a clinical based. Because somebody needs to do the driving test, it's because they have some kind of medical condition. And that, so we need a physician's prescription to do that. And the second thing we need is your valid driver's license. And let's say if you have, not just pulmonary condition, but another condition that you have been, reported to the driver's safety office, then if you do not have a license, we can help you to get a one-day permit. And I cannot thank Tressa enough because she helps me to get that one-day permit so we can do the driving test. So that is the criteria to participate. And when we do the clinical assessment, we are checking your range of motion, your vision, screening. I mean, it's not a big time, but it takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and then we go on the road. And we do minimum of 75 minutes of driving. That is the basic driving we do. We go in areas that you typically would drive to. We try to accommodate that and try, to drive in the areas that you're more familiar with and you're comfortable with. Like say from your home to the grocery store, home to the doctor's office, whatever it could be. And when I do the driving test, we have a driving instructor who also goes with us. And then we look, how, if you have to take the walker with you, how do you handle that? How do you handle oxygen equipment? How do you handle, any other, let's say if you have a wheelchair, can you fold and unfold and you put the wheelchair in the car? So that is what. And then we go through each and every, can you start the car well, smoothly, soft, smooth, or jerky stops, or jerky starts. We check all that. I know how your sensation is affected. As people with diabetes, sometimes they do not feel the pedals in their feet and they have to look down to check where the gas and the brake pedal. So that is a problem. So we need to identify that, and we look at all those issues prior to even driving. And then that when I do the clinical assessment, that gives me a good idea about somebody's thought process, and then I see if it matches with their driving performance. The most challenging part that I see with our seniors is the speed. That means, it's not going fast, it's going too slow. And people say that, well, I'm being very conscious, I'm being very, cautious about not driving over the speed. But remember, if you're going 10 miles below the speed limit, DMV would not accept it. So though we do not test like the DMV, even if somebody makes a mistake, we continue to drive. I mean, we do intervene because we have a car that has dual control, the gas and the brake on their side. So we do intervene, but those are considered as critical errors. The other second significant problem that I see with our clients is uncontrolled left-hand turns and the lane changes. Because the speed at which the car is approaching, that judgment is sometimes lacking, or sometimes it's like overwhelming. So there are people who try to avoid those intersections. They just make all those right turns to get to their destination, but then they avoid those left-hand turns. So that is one of the areas that I definitely see an issue. Handling lane changes, because lane changes require a lot of multitasking. Think about it. Yes?
Why left-hand turns?
When there is a no left-hand arrow, that is the uncontrolled intersection, and so they have to come in the middle of the intersection, and then they have to judge the speed of the oncoming car and the distance. And that making that quick move makes it challenging for a lot of seniors. It is very, because it requires a lot of quick reaction, processing, and sometimes that is, with age, definitely affects. Yes?
And sometimes with the DMV, we notice that's when seniors realize they have a vision issue. Because sometimes the vehicle opposite you in the opposite left turning lane, maybe it's a big truck. And so now you're dependent on your left eye only, your right eye can't compensate. So that's where that becomes an issue sometimes. And then you make that turn and there's an accident or a near accident because you misjudge the speed or the distance of that oncoming vehicle.
Thank you.
Very good point, Tressa. Yeah, so many times if you cannot see from one eye, and then that depth perception is gone, or the space judgment is missing. Yes?
I heard it was illegal to make a left turn no matter what. that you are at fault. The driver is at fault.
So she's saying, if I'm understanding, usually if you're making a left turn and there's an accident, 99.9% of the time, the person making the left turn is at fault. And usually that is correct. And that is because you are turning into oncoming traffic. So you are to yield, and it's your responsibility to make sure everything is safe and clear before you make that turn. So you're turning into traffic, which is why generally the left turner is found at fault.
I was making a left turn and a person hit me from behind. There was no traffic coming the other way. But she hit me from behind and I was at fault.
You were making a left turn and someone hit you from the back, their rear-ended you?
Yeah.
Now usually when you rear-end someone, usually when someone, if I'm driving and I rear-end you, usually I'm at fault. So I'm not sure how that went for you, or why it went that way for you.
Wow.
So she's saying that she was rear-ended and she was at fault for that driving. So we cannot make a call there because, you know, like Teresa mentioned, if somebody rear-ends you, the person who rear-ends you is at fault. Usually. All right, the lane changes again require, and one another factor on the left-hand turn, you know, if there's a bicyclist or a pedestrian coming on that side, you know, so when we are talking about that multitasking of ability to judge everything, you know, same thing with the lane changes. We have to be able to signal, check the mirrors, look over the shoulder and go if it is safe. And that definitely, you know, requires a lot of fast processing speed, and that sometimes get affected. So that is another big challenge that we see with the seniors. And the intersections we already talked about, and parking, you know, in grocery store. And many times people say it is very hard to back out of the parking. You know, sometimes I teach the strategy for them to drive in a spot that they can just move forward and they don't have to back up, because if that is a challenge with their range of motion in their neck or whatever it may be. And then the freeway driving, if somebody drives on the freeway, we do take them on the freeway and let them, you know, try with us.
See you later.
So knowing what is the reason why you need to do the driving assessment, you know, it is a progressive condition or a stable condition. You know, somebody had a brain injury, it's done, if they are stable, nothing has changed again. But someone has a progressive condition like dementia or Alzheimer's, they have those conditions, then they need to be, you know, reported. You know, how their new learning abilities, can they remember, you know, a lot of our seniors don't look over their shoulder, they rely just on the mirror, but the DMV does require that you do look over the shoulder, because 2 times, if you take the drive test, 2 times you don't look over the shoulder, you fail the test automatically. So it's a requirement, and we emphasize enough to, you know, so as we do the drive test, I'm constantly cueing, can you show me, you look over the shoulder, come on, you can do it, you can do it. You know, the other is the rolling stop. People have that habit of just rolling through the stop signs. So, you know, we have to remember that, you know, though we don't test you, the DMV does, but we do require that you follow the law. So, and then, you know, there are a lot of adaptive equipment available. If somebody cannot use one side of the body, we can use a lot of adaptive equipment that is available. A knob, you know, somebody cannot use their right foot, we can use a left foot gas pedal. So those things are available. So we have to tap into that if you know, if you can continue to drive safely, and we can definitely help you with that. So now I'm going to have Teresa, my friend, she's going to talk about the DMV process.
Yes. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Tressa Thompson. I'm a senior driver ombudsman with the DMV. And just briefly, the ombudsman program was created after the Santa Monica incident. I don't know if you remember that. It happened to be a senior driver. Unfortunately, he accelerated through the farmer's market, a lot of fatalities and injuries. After that, a lot of our senior drivers felt as though they were being picked on by law enforcement and DMV. They felt as though law enforcement was pulling them over just because they were mature drivers. Some of those complaints were valid, and so that's why this program was created. So you have me as a direct contact within the department. I brought some literature here for you today. I'll make sure it's on the table. One is called the Senior Guide for Safe Driving. I'm on page 3. You get my direct phone number. Okay, if I'm not there, you will get my voicemail and I will return your call. I work in the field because we do presentations like this all day. I'm coming from Huntington Park this morning, actually. We did a low vision seminar with the Braille Institute. So I'm all over the place, but I'm still here for you. If you just bear with me, if I'm not there, I will call you back. Okay, so I just want to hit some topics here. First off, usually some hot topics. First off, when you are here in California, you're a licensed driver. When your license expires and you are 70 or older at the time of expiration, you are no longer eligible to renew your license through the mail. So you will no longer be eligible to get the renewal by mail. Okay? At 70 and older, you have to go in person to renew the license at your local DMV office. You have to submit to a vision test as well as a knowledge test, which is the written test. Okay? 18 questions, 3 errors. There's no such thing as a senior test. There's no such thing as a special test if you have medical conditions. Everyone 18 and older gets the same test, the same types of questions. No two tests should be the same because we now have new testing technology. It's called the touchscreen. So the paper test, as you know it, is gone. It's now a touchscreen. And it's kind of like using a tablet or an iPad. Okay? So if you want specifics on how to use that, you can always give me a call. I'll go over that with you in more detail. As far as medical conditions are concerned, the DMV does not automatically take the license or suspend the driving privilege if you have a medical condition. We do have the driver's safety branch of the Department of Motor Vehicles. And the driver's safety branch is designed and trained to get information from your doctor, have you come in, and have a conversation with you regarding your condition. How often are you driving? What medications are you taking? Do you experience any side effects? So those are questions that would be asked of you if anything happened or was reported to the department. Doctors are mandated by law to report conditions to the Department of Motor Vehicles. They are mandated to report any condition that they feel will affect someone's ability to drive safely. Any questions on that? So you are not being picked on. They are mandated by law to report conditions. And so my only request of you today is don't change your doctor. My seniors get really PO'd when they are reported to the DMV. Don't change your doctor unless there's a reason. If there's medical malpractice, if you feel like your condition is not being addressed. But if your condition is being addressed, don't be grumpy. Make that doctor your best friend. Make them work for that money and that medical insurance that you paid for. Okay? Yes?
Does the DMV notify you prior to your 70th birthday?
You still get notified because you're going to get your renewal you're going to get the renewal notice in the mail just like everyone else. Yes. So if you hold your license already at 68 and you just got it, you won't get it. And you don't have to go until it expires. Not when you turn 70, when it expires and you're 70 or older. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
My license expires this year in August.
Okay.
I will be 67.
Okay.
Will it automatically be renewed?
It depends on your driving record and if there are any medical conditions reported to the department or vision issues.
How many accidents have you had, Rita?
None, of course.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, some of this is random before you turn 70. Like I've renewed my license for a long time. I haven't had to go in. I've renewed it by mail. I think the last time I went in actually to renew, I had to do the vision test only. So you figure you get your license from us for 5 years and we don't bother you. But we do need to know if something has happened in between that time. I got a couple questions. Let me start in the back.
After you pass that age limit, what's the difference between the next time you have to go again and take the test?
5 years. So if you are 70 and older and you go in to renew your license and you pass the vision and the knowledge test, you get a 5-year license. And in the next 5 years, you're going to go and do that again, vision and knowledge.
In 5 years?
5 years. The only time the department gives you less than a 5-year license is if there's a vision issue. Then we may give you 1 year or 2 years or 18 months.
Teresa, they're asking what is knowledge test?
Knowledge test is the written test, but since we're doing away with paper, we call it the knowledge test now. Okay, so written test, knowledge test, same thing. It's the renewal test. Does that make sense? Am I confusing you? We're okay? I'm coming right there, yes.
On the machine that you have to use,
Okay,
if you're only allowed 3 errors, but it's a touch screen, and you shake, and you hit the wrong one, what happens?
how about I go into how it works? Will that make you more comfortable? Okay, let me just answer this question and I'll go into how it works.
Are there certain circumstances under which you have to take another driving test?
When you take a driving test, a drive test is usually only required if there's a medical condition that may affect your driving or definitely vision impairments. So that's the only time a driving test is required. So 70 and older, if you go in up until you're 100 and something, and you pass and there are no conditions and your vision's good, you're gonna get a 5-year license. So really quickly, how does this touch screen work? I'm gonna tell you, it's really easy. So when you go in and you get in front of this screen, it's about a 32-inch screen or so, like a TV in your bedroom, okay? The format of the test is the same, meaning you get the question and you get 3 options, just like the paper, right? So next to each option is just a clear bubble. So you read the question, you read through each option, and then you touch, and it darkens. I know what you're thinking. Well, with the paper, you can erase. Well, of course, you cannot erase with the touch screen. But if you decide as you're looking at that, it's not the first one, it's the middle one. You just touch it. It darkens. This one opens up. And then you say, well, no, it's the third one. You touch it. It darkens. The other 2 are now open. So the screen is going to acknowledge, your answer where you touch. And it's not that sensitive where if you have a tremor or you're shaking, you won't be able to touch it. Sometimes they'll even give you a pencil with an eraser so you can touch it, because some people just have different things going on. Okay? So you get 3 minutes on one question, because you just get one question at a time. So of course with the paper, you had everything available and you could skip down. You can't do that. But you get one question at a time, 3 minutes on that one question. You don't have to take the full 3 minutes if you don't want. So if you answer the question, it darkens, and then you touch where it says submit on the screen. Your answer goes away. If it's right, the next question comes up. If it's wrong, what you just submitted, that question comes back on the screen. And it puts a red X where you put the wrong answer, and a green check mark where the right answer should be. You can't change it, but it lets you know immediately, you got that wrong, this is the right answer, and this is where you find it in the California handbook. Okay? I'll be right with you. So let's say, remember I told you you have 3 minutes to answer the question, right? So let's say you get close to that 3 minutes, you're not timing yourself, you're testing. And so something will pop on the screen, it'll say, Purnima, you've been on this question for 2.5 minutes. Do you need more time? Yes or no? If you touch yes, you get 3 more minutes. If you touch no, then you have to finish that question in the time, in the remaining seconds that you have. Yes?
How many questions on the test?
18 questions and you can miss 3. 18. Yes.
I did it last year. It was very easy. It's a very simple system and I had no problem with it. As a matter of fact, I even aced the test. So.
Oh, I love him. He said it was so easy. Did you guys hear that? You need the mic. Very good. Thank you for that testimony. I needed it because I don't think I've convinced them yet. Yes.
Are you still putting out the booklet for review?
Yeah.
Definitely. The booklet comes out every year. I have some of those with me. They're 2016, 2017 will be out in a few weeks. They don't come out at the very top of the year. It's usually around February, March that they usually come out. So they should be coming out any day now. Okay? But if you have to take a test and you study the 2016 book that I have, you're going to be fine. Okay? Yes?
This may seem a little ridiculous, but it's been on my mind ever since California passed the initiative. What happens if you're imbibed in the little Mary Jane and then you drive?
What happens? It's called driving under the influence. Because it's legal. Driving under the influence is not legal. Whether it's alcohol, prescription medications, or Mary Jane. Illegal drugs or legal drugs. So if it's prescribed, because people have their medical marijuana cards now, it doesn't give you the right to smoke when you're driving. It doesn't give you the right to drive when you're under the influence of Mary Jane.
What is Mary Jane?
Marijuana. I'm using her words. She said Mary Jane. Yeah, it's marijuana, which is now legal, but it's not legal to drive under the influence of anything. Okay, so remember that. Yes, ma'am.
What is the age that before you have to take a driving test?
There's no age limit. The only requirement for an actual driving test is if there's something going on with your vision or you have a health condition. So there's no age limit like when you turn 90, you have to take a driving test. Just the written test and the vision test. Yes. But the driving test, there's no age limit on that. Okay? Yes.
Are there any differences in the new laws between 16 and 17?
Definitely. But like I said, if you have to take a test, you'll be okay. And the new laws are going to be in the very front cover of our 2017 booklet. So it gives you, updates on what's new.
I just wanted to mention to these tech-savvy people that have the booklet is on, you can get it online, right?
Our booklets are online. Anything that I bring here today, the literature I have, it is available on our DMV's website. It's free. You can print it out or just download it and use it as a PDF file and look through it at your leisure. When you study for your test, you know this information. You've been driving for a long time. Don't get yourself all psyched out. That's what my seniors do. I meet a lot of friends. They call me every day. Okay, my test is coming up. Now, what did you say to do? And read the booklet 15, 20 minutes, once or twice a day before your test. Don't try to read the booklet cover to cover at one time. It's a good read, but, rest in between. This is my best suggestion for preparing. Read the booklet. My son is 21 years old. I don't know anything about a car seat. Right? But that could be on my test. I don't know the height, the weight, the front seat, the back seat, backwards, forward. I don't know that. He's 21. He's been taller than me since the 3rd grade. I have no clue. So I have to look at that. Driving under the influence. Usually my senior group are not the ones out there, driving under the influence of Mary Jane or alcohol. But that doesn't mean it won't be on your test. So those are things that could be on your test. That's 2 or 3 questions possibly right there. You can only get 3 wrong. So focus on those areas that you're not familiar with. It helps. Yes?
Do you have practice tests on the internet?
We have 5 sample tests on the internet with the answers, so you can take it online or you can print it. Whatever your preference.
But it's not in the booklets?
There are a few sample tests in the booklets, but not all of them. If you need the sample test and you're not computer savvy, call me, I'll mail it to you, no problem. Yes?
I want you to mail me that.
Okay. Don't make me laugh, I have a cold. Yes.
Something that I found that I was aware of is tricky wording.
Okay, tricky wording. Let me just take this down. Tricky wording. My director, he just hates that. So this is what happens when we take the test. You have to answer the question based on what they asked. A lot of times we add scenarios to the questions. They give you a direct question and you say, well, the dog's over here, the car's over here. They didn't include that. So don't include that with your answer because they know what thinking is. It's a test. They're going to put a question in there based on, they're going to add this. It's not tricky. It's are you paying attention and are you asking what we're answering what we're asking you. So just be cognizant of, let me reread that because I added something to it. And usually when you reread it, you're like, no, it's this one. Because it's going to match the scenario in the question. So no tricky wording. Yes?
Did you already say that, can we take that test over again? Or
You have, once you pay your $33 to renew your license, you have 3 chances to take the written test. Everyone. 3 chances. After, if you fail 3 chances, then you have to repay $33 and you get another 3 chances. There's no limit on how many times you can do it. It doesn't look great if you have to do that 20 times. You may cause a problem for yourself, so that's why I tell you to really try and study. Yes?
Before age 70, every year I would get a letter saying your license is about to expire, fill out this form and send it in, you can get a new license. I was so used to that.
Yeah.
Then after age 70, I got no letter. My license expired. It was months and months later that I thought, uh-oh, I've got an expired license.
Well, you still get a renewal notice. Just because you're 70, we're still going to send you a reminder like, hey, you need to renew your license, set up an appointment if you need to, but you have, these are the requirements, written and vision.
I did not yet.
Oh, did you move?
Nope.
Okay, that's unfortunate. You should still get a renewal notice. So, be cognizant of your expiration date and know that you should get something about 2 months before your license expires. You can call and make an appointment as early as 6 months before your birthday. Anything earlier than 6 months, you'll only get 4 years, you'll lose a year. So don't do it any earlier than 6 months before your birthday. Yes, I'm sorry, you've been waiting patiently. I'm sorry.
To go on the internet, to DMV, what do you,
Our website, it's dmv.ca.gov. And that's going to be in all my literature, dmv.ca.gov.
It took me out, but my husband and I have never gotten rid of our homes.
You should.
Never.
Yeah, I don't know, if you move and the DMV is not aware of it, we do not forward mail from the post office forwarding. So if you put in a forward to the post office and you did not let the DMV know, the agency, our mail goes back to Sacramento. So it's very important, it is in the armed vehicle code, so it's law. You need to change your address with us within 10 days of moving. You have to notify us. So just make sure you check your address. You can call me, I'll put in your information and I'll check your address to make sure we have it correct. Yes?
When I received my notice last year, I called the Torrance DMV to set up an appointment.
Okay.
They didn't have any appointment available until after my birthday. How many individuals can get an advance appointment in a day?
Millions? It's a lot of people. And we have some new laws that passed, and the DMV was very crowded the last year or two, even more so than normal. So that's why I say you can contact the DMV. Don't wait for the notice to come. You can call, 3 or 4 months before your birthday. Don't wait for the notice, because then you only have about 2 months.
Usually, I get a lot of time. This year, it was only like 3 weeks.
Oh, you should get 2 months.
And I received the notice saying I had calling.
Wow.
The office around were full.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that does happen. So you have to be flexible. If you can go to another office, possibly. Yeah.
San Pedro's usually pretty good. You can get in there without an appointment pretty easily.
Okay, and you don't have to have an appointment. It's just more convenient for you.
And if you have a handicap placard without an appointment, they pull you out.
They will pull you out and expedite you if you have a handicap placard. You're correct. See, she knows all the secrets too. Any other questions on that test I was talking about? The knowledge test and the new technology? I just want to go back to that for a moment and let you know that you can skip up to 3 questions. Because of course on the paper you had the option of skipping around. On the test, the questions are coming to you one at a time. So if that question comes up and you don't want to answer that one right now, you can skip it. It'll come back to you at the end. So you can skip up to 3 questions and they will come back to you at the end of the test when you answer everything else. So I just want to make sure you know that. It's not so final. Okay? Yes?
Why did they make the cutoff age at 70?
Well, because as we age gracefully, things do change. And so we want to make sure that cognizantly you still are able to demonstrate that you know the rules of the road, and vision changes dramatically too at 50. So we want to make sure you can see.
The only reason I ask is the majority of the people in this room are over 70.
Not quite, I'm getting there.
I said the majority.
Yeah, that's just our law, and the DMV worked with a lot of doctors and different medical fields to determine what would that be that age, that number, to have people come in and be retested. Yeah. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If you have to renew, what do you have to bring in with you? Just your license?
Yeah, if you have
your social security card?
No, because that's already been verified. So you don't have to bring in your birth certificate, your marriage certificate. We don't need all of that. That's done already. Now, if you have to change your name, then you're going to have to bring in some additional documents because you're changing your name. And we need to see the document that proves that you're changing your name and it's legal. But if you've had your license for years, you don't have to bring in anything. You just come in and renew your license. Yes?
If you come from outer state, what do you have to bring?
It depends, and that's gonna be in our handbook. So it just kind of depends on if you're a first-time license or if you've already had your license in another state. Usually you're gonna have to bring in your proof of your legal presence, your birth certificate, a passport, because we've never verified that here in California. And laws are different from state to state on how they verify your name, your birth date, and your social security number.
I had a driver's license from California,
Okay?
but now I've given that up and gone someplace else. But
Okay.
I still have a senior card from California.
So then you should be okay, because you've already have something here. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Too many accidents, Dwayne.
Say it again, one more time.
How long do you have to be automatically renew it to you, or do you have to apply for it again?
For the placard,
Every 2
the
years?
disabled placard, is that what we're talking about? The disabled placard, the blue one, which is permanently disabled, that's given to you automatically. So once your doctor fills out that application initially, then we don't have to do that anymore, because the doctor is giving us the criteria regarding the condition that renders you permanently disabled. So the DMV doesn't make the decision if you get the placard. Really, it's up to your doctor. But we issue the placard. So once we have that information, you're not required to bring it back.
You renew it whenever the.
It comes to you automatically every 2 years, just like clockwork.
And it doesn't expire until 2 years.
But it's important to change your address with the DMV, because if you change your address, you won't get that. Yes.
Are there special criteria, let's say that you're almost blind in one eye, but you have very good vision in the other?
What was the question?
More than likely, it had to do with vision. She said, is there a criteria if you're blind in one eye but you have good vision in the other eye? We do have minimum vision standards. It's 20/40 in both eyes, 20/40 in one eye, and at least 20/70 in the other eye. So if you don't meet our vision standards, then we'll give you what's called a reported vision examination to be completed by your eye doctor. You bring it back in, we find out what is the diagnosis, what's the prognosis, is it stable, is it progressive?
What if you have a fake eye?
Are there any doctor recommendations regarding your driving? And then we'll look at that and we'll determine, okay, well, let's give this person a driving test. Because some people are born that way. They've compensated all their lives. But again, like Purnima talked about, compensation kicks in. So we'll give you an opportunity by giving you a driving test. Now, we may not give you 5 years, because if you have a condition in one eye and it's limiting your vision, we want to make sure that your good eye stays healthy. So we may want to see you back in a year or maybe 2 years. We won't give you a full 5 years. Yes?
How often do you have to show proof of insurance?
You should have proof of insurance on file all the time. When do you show it? If you're in an accident, of course, you're obligated to show proof of insurance.
You can't register your car.
One other question. When you're driving on the road and you get to an intersection, you want to make a left turn, that intersection has printed on the road, keep this section of the intersection open.
Clear, okay.
People don't acknowledge that.
So you have to call local law enforcement. So if it's an intersection and you notice it happens there all the time and you frequent that, call your local law enforcement and say, I noticed that they're blocking the intersection where they're keeping it clear. Can you send someone out to observe? Once they come out and they start giving warnings or giving tickets, it'll clear. Yes.
I have 2 questions. I want to go back to the handicap placard.
Okay.
Mine has an expiration date on it. Do I have to reapply, or will I be sent one automatically?
If it's blue, if it's a permanent placard, you get it automatically.
But it has an expiration date.
It comes to you automatically.
The other question I have is, I bought a car. I bought a new car in between the time I applied for the placard and got it. Does that matter now that I have?
You don't have to have a card to have a placard. It's issued to the individual.
Okay, so it doesn't matter.
It's not attached to the vehicle.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you have a physical placard and then also the tags on your car?
The license plate and the placard, you can have them both.
You can.
Because what if you're not driving your car that
That's
day?
what I thought.
Most definitely, you can have them both. And you already have the placard or the plate, so you just apply for it. You don't have to submit new medical information. We already have that.
Thank you.
Yes.
I hate to be stupid.
You're
but
not.
I'm going to be.
That's okay, Gail, we'll let you.
Go over that placard one more time. It shows an expiration date of June.
Right.
It will be renewed automatically?
Yes. The placard is renewed automatically every other year. It comes to you in the mail, like clockwork.
Yeah, I've already received my renewal.
Yes. Yes, sir.
How does the DMV find out when somebody's handicapped has died?
How do they find out? Usually, the vital statistics records are updated, but you need to turn it in if you know that someone has passed away. You cannot use that placard. You know, and also when the placard is issued, remember it's issued to the person with the disability. So if your spouse has a placard, get your own. You can't share it. If your child has a placard, get your own. You cannot share it. It doesn't work that way. They will take that person's placard and they will be cited. One more key thing of having a placard. This is what I want you to remember. When your placard goes up, you need to be present. You don't need to be dropped off at the store. You don't need to be over here. You need to be in that vehicle when that placard goes up if your name is on it.
Whether you're driving or not?
Whether you're driving or not. It's not about driving. It's about using that handicap spot and using it legally as opposed to abusing it. Yes.
Because if you're going someplace and you're not gonna drive, like one of my kids is gonna drive me, I can take my placard with me, right?
Your placard can go to any car as long as you're with it. And carry the identification paper with you also. Yes. Your disabled placard? Yes, it comes to you automatically. Your disabled placard will be sent to you automatically. Yes, ma'am. They will mail it to you. Yes. Yes.
If you have to be present with your car or your placard.
With the placard.
Okay, and let's say she drops me off at the door, but it's on my license plate?
Because she's not handicapped.
So I still...
Yes. It still applies for the plate. So let me just go over the rules of the placard. This is usually a hot topic, right? So number one, you don't have to have a car to get a placard. Number two, the DMV does not determine if you get the placard. It's your doctor. We just issue the placard. The doctor has to say that your condition is permanently disabled. So if you get something and the DMV says you don't get a placard, it's not because we decided. It's because the doctor says you don't fit the criteria. Number three, when the placard is issued, it is issued to the individual. You cannot share the placard. So Purnima is going to take me to the market, okay? She's going to drop me off at the door because I have a bad knee. She's going to drop me off, and then she's going to go park in the disabled spot, and she's going to put up my placard. Legal or illegal? Illegal. It's illegal because it's issued to me. She dropped me off. I have the disability. She doesn't. That's not what it's for, to park for convenience. It's for the person to be able to walk a shorter distance that has the disability.
So you should drop her at the door.
Now, if we pull in that parking spot together, and it's my placard, and we put it up, we're fine. She's fine, because I'm there. So whenever your placard goes up, you need to be present. That's what you have to remember. And don't use anyone else's placard, and don't lend yours out. Not to your spouse, your caregiver, your child. It doesn't work that way. It's issued to the individual. I can't say that enough.
If I go to the store and I leave my
I can bear, go ahead. You got a question?
Go ahead, ask your question. Oh, it was just, well, I'm sure I misunderstood. If you go into the grocery store and you're alone in your car, you put up your placard, you go to the store, well.
You're fine. That's fine.
You gotta put the placard up. Right.
Yeah, you're fine. You have to put the placard up. So
what's the difference if someone else is sitting in the car?
because what I said was, if she takes me to the market and I have the disability and she puts me off at the door and then she goes and parks in the disabled spot and puts up my placard, I'm not there and she doesn't have a disability, nor does she have a placard.
What if she got out in the handicap, if I got out in the handicap?
As long as you're there. As long as you're there with the person, whether you're driving or you're a passenger, as long as you are present when the car is put in the disabled person's spot and the placard goes up, that's fine. We're legal, no problem.
So what you're saying is that if the person who's in the car with her that doesn't belong to the handicap pass, they can stay in the car.
They can stay in the car. Now, that's up to the officer. The officer may approach and say, oh, you're in the handicap spot, I need to see your paperwork, because they can do that. Oh, well, I parked here, my mom is in the store. It's up to the officer to say, well, does your mom have a cell phone? Or I'll come back to verify that's her placard. That becomes a law enforcement issue. But they're reasonable, so that should be okay, yes.
Do you have to have a driver's license to get a handicap?
No. No. Yes.
How many states acknowledge the California handicap, and how many countries acknowledge the same?
I don't have that information on hand. Most states